Well, hey y'all, this is Charlotte with the Hidden Woman Within video. If you had an opportunity to watch last week's video, I hope that you hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll know when I upload a video. If this is your first time seeing this video, welcome in. All of my videos will be pre-recorded because I really don't see the need to go live right now. I'm basically just sharing some information, and if prompted to go live, I will. So part of this video will be me recapping what I talked about last week in case you didn't see that video or you don't make the time to go back and look at that video. Um, Recapping is I introduce myself. So if this is your first time, my name is Charlotte English. I currently live in the wonderful state of Texas. I am from Morganville, New Jersey. I have 4 children, 2 girls, 2 boys. I have 2 daughter-in-laws, a son-in-law. I have 17 grandchildren. One of them is with the Lord at this time. I am a business owner. I have always had some kind of side hustle. That's just in my blood. Entrepreneurial spirit is just part of who I am. The business that I have is Bags Galore, t-shirts and more. I do t-shirts and tumblers and caps. I sell jewelry. I hats. There's just a lot going on, and I love all of it. The other part of me is a construction worker or somebody that renovates. I love to paint, hang sheetrock, and all of that good stuff. I can put in the sink and put in the toilet. I can lay down flooring. You know, I almost feel like I build the doggone house. If given the opportunity, I would try it. So those are my passions. I also mentioned that I'm a born again believer. What that means is that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. What that doesn't mean is that you have to be a born again believer to be a part of Hidden Woman. The come on back here, Charlotte. I squirreled there for a minute. Okay, so oh, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you're not a Christian, because I'm going to be talking about the word. That's who I am. That's what's in me. So that's what's going to come out. It's like having an orange in your hand and it's peeled and you squeeze it. Stuff is going to come out. And I'm not being squeezed, but still what's in me is what's going to come out, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. And you never know, I might be saying something that's relevant to you. And so stick around, see what I'm talking about. I also added that I don't have any sugar. What that means is I'm not sugarcoating anything. I don't have eggshells, so I won't be walking on any eggshells. I'm very down to earth. I have a sense of humor. I said, and I'm going to use it because I like to have fun. There are some things that I say that you might like, some things that you don't like. I'm not here for the ups and, for the likes and dislikes. I'm actually on assignment. This is something that I know at this particular time in my life, this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. I won't be biting my tongue. I'm basically just sharing my story. And then, of course, giving my opinion about some things, and you are entitled to agree or disagree. But just be careful about your comments if you happen to leave any, because there's a whole lot of other things on YouTube you could be watching besides Charlotte in the Hidden Woman Within. So I'm going to be sharing my story and my story alone. And some of my story may involve other people, but you won't hear me mention anybody's name, and I will be mindful of that. I'm not here to throw shade or throw anybody under the bus. The Hidden Woman started many, many years ago in basically title form, which means I got the title to it. And it was just impressed in my spirit that people are hiding. And which reminds me of a game that we used to play as kids. And if I'm telling my age by that, I'm 65 years old. And if you were anywhere near that, then you know about the game hide and seek. If you happen to be a little bit younger and you're looking at this and you don't know what hide and seek is, I'm getting ready to tell you. So I remember some neighborhood kids, along with my sisters, my brothers, cousins, we would be outside because we lived out in the country. That's out in Morganville. And we would one child would, maybe lean up against a tree or the house or something and cover their eyes, and they would start counting. And while the rest of us ran and would hide, we would hide in a tree. We would hide under an old car. My grandparents had this old car out there in the yard, and I remember that car. We had a chicken coop. We had a shed. Um, there was lots of places to hide. And I think back now, and I'm not an outdoor girl. I don't like to be outside. They made us stay outside when we were growing up. So I might go sit on the patio, but if you're talking about sitting outside in the grass somewhere, I ain't doing that. So don't like snakes and critters and stuff. And I think sometimes I said, I bet you there was probably a snake up under that car looking like, how dumb can you be and still breathe? But we were hiding. So thinking about that today, a lot of people are still hiding, except for it's not a game to them. And I don't even think a lot of times people realize that they're hiding. And some of the things that they hide behind are their work, their families, their spouses, alcohol, drugs. There's a lot of places to hide. And in hiding is because you don't want to deal with yourself or deal with some things on the inside. I actually had a coworker tell me, he used to come to me all the time. He'd be having problems and wanted me to pray with him or just talk to him. And he would say to me, it's easier for me to talk to somebody else and laugh and talk. He said, because then I don't have to deal with myself, which is really not good. You need to deal with yourself, because if you don't, everybody else, well, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, we need to take the time to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. Okay. So there are a lot of people still hiding. So what that is they're not being their true, authentic self. And it reminds me of dating. When you go out on a date, what you do? You send your representative. Because I know back when I was dating, I guess if that's what you want to call it, the girls, we didn't eat in front of the boy. And, God forbid if you had to pass gas. Yeah, I said it. Everything was just like you were afraid to do anything because you didn't want that person to see who you really were or who you really are. And today we're still doing that. I'm getting ready to go in. So I see a lot of that on Facebook and TikTok and these social medias, that there's a lot of people presenting themselves in a way. Now, I'm not saying you, because I don't know who's watching, but I'm just telling you what I observe. Um, that's not really them, because I'm quite sure that there are a lot of broken hearts behind those smiles. And some people, they go ahead and they tell the truth, but I think there's a lot of broken hearts out there. And people wanting you to think that they have more than they have and they do more than they do. I had a lady that used to sew for me, when I didn't have the time to hem a pair of pants, because I can sew too. And I remember going to her, and she and I got to talking one day, and she was telling me that one of her nieces took a picture of herself going up the stairs, or somebody took a picture, and she had on red bottom shoes. And she said, that girl don't own no red bottoms. And she said she ain't got no granite countertops in her house either. She said that, and that on Facebook, her place was laid out. Photoshop. Why? Obviously, she wanted people to think that she was doing better than she actually is. I don't really understand that 100%. Maybe I do if I were really to sit down and take the time to think about it. But, I just didn't think that much about it. But anyway, we all have issues. We all have issues. And so we don't want to wear those issues on our sleeves. So we kind of put up this wall per se, and we're sometimes not being our authentic selves. Have I been there, done that? Yes, I have. Um, I think at this point in my life, anybody got time for that? It is what it is. I can tell you one thing. If you think I'm raw, I have a sister. And I said I wasn't going to mention her name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. She going to say what she need to say, whether you like it or not. Plain and simple. She is probably more authentic than anybody I know. She's just going to say it. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Which kind of reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother was the type of person that people would say either you liked her or you didn't. And if she liked you, you knew it. And if she didn't, you knew it. And I remember when she passed away, the pastor that preached her funeral didn't know my grandmother, or so we thought. He knew enough about her that during his sermon, he said, I didn't know Mrs. Huntley very well, but this is one thing I knew. She said what she meant, and she meant what she said. And I was like, he knew enough about her. And that's pretty much how I am, how my sister is, how, I don't know if that's just a family thing, but, or an age thing. I don't know. But I'm not going to, again, I don't sugarcoat anything. But at the same time, I walk in love. I'm not trying to be mean or hurtful to anyone. But I'm like, I think I would rather for you to tell me the truth than to lie to me about anything. I'm not the one, and I hope it doesn't sound like I'm all over the place. I'm just talking, just talking. I'm not the one that's going to come along and say, oh, baby, it's going to be okay. Oh, honey, I'm not doing that. To me, that's sugarcoating stuff. But I will say, listen, everything is going to be okay. You just got to get up and keep moving. That's called tough love. You got to be able to say what needs to be said, because you're just pouring salt in the wound, I guess. Again, I think I would rather for you just to be honest with me. I had an aunt. She is in heaven. She went on to be with the Lord. And one of the best pieces of advice that she ever gave me, in my early years of being a Christian, she said, being a Christian doesn't mean being a doormat for people. And I bring her up because she had a very good friend. Again, I'm not mentioning any name, but my Aunt Carol is in heaven, so I'm going to mention her name. Just an amazing woman of God who taught me so many things in my early years of Christianity. But she had a friend who lost her mother, and she kind of went into a depression. And eventually, and my Aunt Carol loved her. And eventually she went to her house, snatched those curtains back, told her, get up. You're going to have to get up and get out of this house. And, whatever, however long that took, she eventually got up. But you know what? She was very grateful to my aunt for doing that, because if my aunt didn't care about her, she didn't love her, she just would have went over there and just kept petting that little, but nobody knows how long we're supposed to grieve. But you can't stay there forever. You lose someone and you go through the grieving process, but nobody tells us or can tell you how long the grieving process is. Only you can determine that. But if it goes on too long, then you wind up in a dangerous place. And so then somebody, if they care about you, would have to come and kind of shake you and tell you life goes on. But again, you got to walk in love. Oh, you need to get up, like you need to. No, that's not how you do that. So anyway, I think I squirreled a little bit, but you get my point. So the other good piece of advice that I got, I think I'm in the same vein. The other good piece of advice that I got is from a pastor that I used to sit under in New Jersey. And she would say, your first area of deliverance needs to be from people. And I couldn't agree more. You need to be delivered from people. Because I think once you get delivered from other people's opinions and what they have to think about, what they think about you, what you say about you, you can begin to be who you are, the amazing person, the phenomenal person that God created you to be. God didn't create no wimps. I don't know who told you all that, but no, he didn't. And, everything that he created was good. Amazing and wonderful. I am not the one. I hear people say, oh, I'm so stupid. You ain't going to never hear me say that about myself. Oh, I'm so dumb. I'm this, I'm that. No. To me, I think that's an insult to God, because he created you. Yes, a lot of the things that you do is learned behavior, but he still created you. He gave you the hair that you have, the skin that you have, the lip. He gave it to you. So, at one time I didn't like this, I didn't like that. And I was like, what an insult to the manufacturer. I'm like, girl, you looking good, whatever it is. Nobody else has to think that I look good. Their opinion about you shouldn't matter. It's what your opinion about you is what matters. So, that was free. So, In that same vein, just being deliberate, just learning how to be your authentic self. I had also mentioned last week that I was going to share with you at one time that I didn't have a voice and that I had lost my voice and that the enemy stole my voice. And so I'm going to give you a little information about that. So I have two very, very early memories of my life, and the second earliest memory is my first day of school. My mom took me to. I was in kindergarten, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. And I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna be okay. I remember it's like it's yesterday, and I remember everything that I was wearing. I don't remember what my mother had on, but I remember what I was wearing. I had on my busted brown red roosters. I had on white bobby socks, a plaid skirt with the strap to come over the shoulder, a white button down shirt that was tucked into that skirt. I had on a white sweater, and my mom used to comb our hair like she did. My mother had really long hair, and she would make a part. She'd make a bang here, and then her bang would fall down here. She would take it and roll it up and put pins in it, put a net on it, and just comb it all back, and she'd have it slit and put it in a ponytail. That's just how she wore her hair. And she put on that red lipstick. Alice wore that red lipstick. And so she fixed my hair the same way. And I still have a picture of how she used to comb my hair that way. And so we go to the principal's office. I mean, I literally can see this every time I tell the story, every time I think about it. We pull into the parking lot of the school, and then we go up, and they had these wide steps, and we'd go up the steps, and then you go into double doors, and you go up some more steps. And to the right was the principal's office. I can't think of her name right now, but I think it was Mrs. Jones, I think. But anyway, I ain't worried about Mrs. Jones. So anyway, she told my mother where my classroom was. So we proceeded down the hall to the left. We got to the left of the corner, and we made a right. And then when you go to the end of the hall again, then the hall split off left to right. And right in front was Mrs. Kaminsky's classroom. And her door had one of those glass panels there. And so my mom peeked in. Of course, I was too short. I could barely see. But Mrs. Kaminsky came and opened the door and let us in. So when we walked in, she said something to my mother. And I noticed that all of the kids were sitting on the floor on those rugs that looked like they were braided, like those pot holders. And Mrs. Kaminsky had a chair at the head of the circle, not in the middle, but at the head of the circle. And all the desks were pulled over to one side. So my mother goes and she sits on that desk. And so she's over there. So then Mrs. Kaminsky kind of leads me, and she sits me across from her in the center, not in the middle of the circle, but if the circle's this way, I'm sitting here, Mrs. Kaminsky sitting there. So she sits back in her chair and she starts to say, we're going to play a game. So the game is called telephone. And so what that is that she would tell the child sitting to her right sentence or something. And then that child would in turn pass it on and pass it on and pass it on. The goal was to get back what she said. Now, that wasn't going to happen. It don't even happen with adults, let alone some kids. So anyway, they start passing along. And then one of the kids said something to me. I don't know what they said. Whatever I thought I heard, I passed it along to the child next to me. So then it gets back to Mrs. Kaminsky. And so she said, that is not what I said. So then the way to find out who messed up was to backtrack. Well, what did Susie tell you, Billy? And they go on and on and on. Well, lo and behold, I say what I say, and then the child before me tells me what the child before her said. At that point, then they realized that I was the one that messed up. The kids started laughing and pointing their fingers and saying stuff. Oh, you stupid! You know how kids can be. Well, Mrs. Kaminsky with herself, wasn't so quick to make them stop. So now the kids are making fun of me because I messed up. And I look over and my mother's gone. She gone. She left me there with the mean kids and that mean teacher. Just left. And so that day, as a 5-year-old kid, there was no way for me to know that my mom could not stay with me all day long. And there was no way to stop the kid. Well, yeah, Mrs. Kaminsky could have stopped the churns from being so cruel, but she didn't. Well, not right away anyway. She did eventually, simmer down, whatever she said to get them quiet. But that day, the message that I got was, what you say is wrong. Nothing you say is right, so keep your mouth shut. Compounded was that time growing up, the message was sent to children. Children should be seen and not heard. So they didn't want to hear nothing we had to say, so they just wanted to see. They just want to look out the window and see outside playing, but they don't want to hear nothing you have to say. And so that was the message that I got that day. And so I wasn't shy. I withdrew within myself. So that was, in a sense, the beginning of Charlotte's hiding. I went into hiding because nothing I have to say matters. Nobody cares what I have to say. And so the enemy took advantage of that, and because a seed was planted. And so his goal was to reap a harvest from that. And he did. For a while. That's another story. We'll talk about that another time. So that's how I lost my voice. And that's when I went into hiding. And that is the enemy's goal, to make you believe that you're something that you're not, that you don't matter, that you're less than. But he's a liar. When he comes with those thoughts, you got to know that he's the father of lies. The Bible says he's the father of lies. So, people say we're all God's children. No, we ain't either. Because if we were, why would the Bible say your father, the devil? I'm not saying your father. I can't see who watching. I don't know. I'm just saying. I didn't write the Bible. I'm just saying what the Bible said when it says your father, the devil. So obviously he has some children. There are those that follow him, those that are obedient to him. And so he just kind of plays them like a puppet. So that was the beginning of my hiding. And it went on from there. So I'm already, further not further than I want to be, but I said I would be mindful of the time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I know if I'm crafting, I could sit and watch a crafting video for hours, I don't, but I'm just saying, I could sit and watch somebody do a tumbler or something like that. But I hope that, something that I said kind of triggers something in you. Maybe you can find out when you went into hiding, or, think about that. And I can tell you that memory was triggered years ago. It wasn't something that I always remembered. I remember, here I go, but I'm still in the same vein. I remember a couple having a situation, and there was this book, and I'm just going to say the title of the book was called Self Matters. I'm sure y'all heard of it. So I thought that I was supposed to send that book to someone. And I was just like, well, I don't know. But then I was like, okay, well, I'm supposed to send it to her. Well, at the end of the day, the book was for me. And I started reading it. And as I was reading it, I was like, dang, it's a lot of writing. But as I began to journal, so much stuff that I didn't even realize was revealed to me in my journaling. And I don't even think I got past the first chapter or the introduction or something, but I never finished the whole book. I just remember that when I got done writing, I would just write. And when I got done, I would just read it. And I was like, it was almost like somebody else wrote what was on the paper. And that's how I remembered that incident back when I was 5 years ago. So that was 60 years ago, because I told you I was 65. So that was 60 years ago that situation happened. And then things just, from that point, from a little girl, and as I grew up, things begin to show themselves in terms of it's like having a garden and there's some seeds that are planted. And when you plant a seed, you want to be able to reap a harvest, but then weeds come up too. And a lot of times in these types of situations, the weeds will come up before you actually see the fruit of what you were supposed to get. So it's almost like the fruit is hiding still in the ground, but the weeds are coming up. And what are the weeds? All those things that cause me to act a certain way because of what happened to me then. And I hope that makes sense. Just the fact that, the enemy's telling me what you have to say is not important and keep your mouth shut. And I did just that. I didn't have to say anything to the point where I had, I'm going to tell you this and then I'm just going to go ahead and shut it down for tonight. That I had a young woman, some ladies that I was carpooling to work with. We worked at this particular place together. And I was carpooling with them. Them girls didn't mind being late. That's not Charlotte. I would rather be 30 minutes early and sit and wait than to be 10, 15 minutes late. I can't stand it. That's just not what I do. If that's you, that's on you. But I'm just saying, I don't like to be late. So then it was my turn. I remember saying, you know what, because I asked somebody, I was dating a guy and asked him if I can borrow his car. He agreed. And so when it was time for me to come pick them up, well, of course, I get to their house. Ain't nobody, they act like they ain't had no job. And so I'm like, I'm not about to be late. And so I left. I left them and I went to work. Well, they got a ride to work. They got a ride. It was 3 of them. They got a ride. And the factory that we worked at, it was an assembly line thing. And so, which was one of the real reasons I hated being late, because I'm like, if you're at the head of the line or you're in the middle of the line, and you're late, that's not good. So anyway, during our lunch break or during a break, I got approached out in the parking lot. It's like being approached on the school playground. And one of them sisters got up in my space, right in my face, and she let me have it. She cussed me from one side, and she wasn't no Christian. Well, neither was I. But I didn't say a word. I didn't say one. I didn't open my mouth. And, the 3 of them surrounded me, and I just didn't say anything. And that stemmed from, but, and everybody was standing around waiting for a fight, because you know how people are. And I'm talking, we were grown. We weren't no kids. And they were standing around waiting for a fight. I just didn't say anything. That was my reaction or my response to what had happened to me. Of course, I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I don't now. But and a lot of incidents, that's why it was easy for me to be emotionally abused, physically abused. It was easy because she ain't gonna say nothing. She ain't gonna speak up for herself. That's not who I am today. That's not who I am today. Because one day, I don't know the day or the hour or the place, but Charlotte stood up on the inside. And then I got over to the other ditch. And then I was like, I wish you would say something to me. That's kind of the Charlotte y'all know now. Anybody that's acquainted with me, because I'm going to say what I need to say. But I walk in love, though. But anyway, just wanted to, unpack that and start to, share my journey of where I've been and how I've been coming out of hiding. If I'm going to tell you that I'm completely out, I'm out so much. I don't know. I'd almost have to go in there and look and say, you still in there? I'm not hiding from anything or anybody, because at some point you're going to have to be the person that God created you to be. You are absolutely amazing, wonderfully created. Don't hide. Let me help you to come out of hiding. Because Diana Ross said, oops, I wasn't supposed to say that. Well, I'm not playing her music, but anyway, you got to come out. Come on out. It's beautiful out here. The sun is out, the sun is shining, and the sun is shining in Jesus' name. So that's all I have for you guys today. And I want to always end by saying one person's story is another person's survival guide. And I hope that I said something that helped or triggered um, maybe a person's name that you think that might want to listen to what I have to say, because there's more where this came from. And it gets a little juicy sometimes. I don't know about juicy, but anyway, I'm just being my authentic self and, just telling you my story. Um, there was another little story that I was going to tell you about, but I'm out of time. And so you want to tune in next week because this is, it's a good story and a lesson well learned. So again, I'm going to say goodnight. I hope you got something out of tonight's video. I didn't know what to call the video, episode, show. I'm going to call it a video. So stay safe and stay blessed. And I'll talk to you next Tuesday. Bye.